All right, well, we are going to go ahead and start. Welcome to day 3 of the TLC conference. My name is Paul Schultz, and I will be the host for this TLC session. Thank you for joining us for Ed Talks, how they came to be, and I'm excited to be able to be a part of this, just to be able to have you hear this presentation from Dr. Jesse Harkins and Dr. Jackie Kiger, two really special people, and we're excited to be able to listen to you during this presentation. They will be monitoring the chat during this presentation and then also taking questions at the end, so please feel free to post questions as they speak. And with that, I present Jackie and Jesse.
Thanks so much, Paul. And thank you to Ashford's Teaching and Learning Conference for having us here today. Jackie, let's go ahead and remove our videos so we can get started with today's presentation. As Paul said, I'm Dr. Jesse Harkins, and I'm a faculty member in the Department of Liberal Arts and Education. I have served as the chair of the College of Education's Professional Development Committee for the last 2 years. And joining me today is the charismatic Dr. Jackie Kiger, a longtime member, coach, and innovator on our Professional Development Committee. At Ashford University, we have a wide range of professional activities to encourage engagement and professional development to support our faculty, as they in turn are there to support our students. Today, we're here to talk about something that we do that is a little different from the traditional. For most months, we host our Ed Talk series, and Jackie is here to tell you the story. Jackie, the microphone is yours.
Well, thank you, Jesse. Our team has been fortunate that every October during graduation week, we have an option to all come together for a couple days of professional development. It's not mandatory, it's optional. But every year, more than 80 to 90% of our team will attend. And it gives us such an opportunity to interact, to team build, and attend training together. The conversation of Ed Talk started in October of 2014 during one of these trainings. And in February of 2015, we gave our first Ed Talk. We're now wrapping up our 5th season. And in looking back, well, here's where it all began. We started with what we knew. We knew that TED Talks were popular, and in 2014, they were especially popular. And then we immediately addressed what we didn't know, which was, why are they so popular? We didn't know, but we set out to find out. What we learned, there's no one person named TED that's doing all that talking. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. It's a collection of people, of presenters. But even from the onset, we were leery of the word presenter. We've all done presentations. We have all attended presentations. We're all academic types, and we know the value of bullet points, tables, and spreadsheets for supporting our research. And in this academia setting, we've all done that research. And we knew, while good, while useful, we wanted to try and take all that, do something different with all of that. And like TED, we decided we wanted to tell stories with it. TED Talks do not base themselves on bullet points or spreadsheets. There's no pivot point data in the talk, and there's no real dependence on a visual or a PowerPoint. So we knew what we knew, and that was, well, we didn't want to add one more professional development training, one more thing to your calendar, and one more email obliging you in your already busy schedule. And most importantly, we knew we couldn't compete with what was already out there, with what was already happening in the CETL and in other colleges. So we began to look at TED Talks with a new eye, and we continued on with our research. Once we realized, based on Carmen Gallo's book, that there were 10 things that make up a TED Talk, we thought, okay, what else can we do? Because this probably won't work. Then we thought about it, and we decided, well, let's just try and see. And in February of 2015, we began offering education talks. Dr. Stephanie Lassiter was our very first Ed Talk presenter, and I was fortunate enough to be her host. And as they say, the rest is history. If our Ed Talks have been successful, it's because of the presenters. And while it is a solo presentation, there are several processes and people working behind the scenes. Jessie, as the chair of the Professional Development Committee, she'll manage the schedule, the invitation announcements, the roster of presenters. She creates the professional development certificates. She archives the recordings, and she manages the dress rehearsals to ensure that all the logistics are in place. That's right. We have a dress rehearsal about 2 days before we go live. It's a lot of work. And all of our presenters are volunteers with a story to tell. Each presenter is assigned a host who will work with them. The host comes from a pool of prior year's Ed Talk presenters as they understand the process and facilitate a welcoming environment for the presenter, allowing them to focus on storytelling and not to have to worry about managing a meeting. We begin planning 12 months in advance. And production will begin at least 6 to 8 weeks before they go live. It's here that they begin meeting with their coach. Unofficially, though, the presenter will begin framing months out. A coach is someone who works with the presenter in drawing out the key points of what makes a good TED Talk, and then encourages and helps find ways to include them within the Ed Talk. Each presenter creates a script. That's right, what you hear, it's scripted. Why do we do that? Well, we want to keep the topic on task, focused, and on value to you, the listener. Our goal is for Ed Talks to be presentation inspirations. Once written down, it becomes easy to tell your story. And they do it in such a manner that if it's not emotional, it certainly is meaningful and hopefully memorable. A script in hand will ensure the 18-minute rule. It will keep the presenter in their lane of what they're comfortable speaking to. It will let them craft their storytelling side so that it can be shared in a conversation that in places is lighthearted, yet in other places it's perhaps jaw-dropping. I've included some pictures here of whom I consider to be the funniest comedian of all time, Steve Martin, who in my view is the king of improv comedy. He's very good at improvising his jokes and making us laugh. His comedy specials seem to flow, and he's being funny in the moment as it comes. But I do wonder, if he's improvising, then how does the cameraman know where to be and what angle to shoot from and when to zoom in for a face shot and when to pan out for a body shot? The cameraman knew this because every moment of what appears to be a humorous improvised comedy act was actually a finely tuned script that was meticulously thought out and then shared with the cameraman so that it would help Steve Martin make his comedic point. That's the value of a script. It lets you work out the details and then stay on those details. That's what we try to do with scripting and Ed Talk. We do it as we don't want you to miss a single thing. Larry Smith, who is a TEDx presenter, connected the master within with passion. When he said passion is the thing that will help you create the highest expression of your talent. So simply put, you have to have a passion for that which you are speaking. I don't think I've ever listened to a TED Talk that it wasn't clear to me that passion was not paramount. So as our Ed Talkers are professionals and familiar with the topic, the key is in when they connect with their listeners by being passionate about that topic. Stories plant ideas and emotions into your listener's thought. Stories can become personal. Telling stories in a virtual setting is the equivalent of being right there next to your listener, much like we're doing right now. Ed Talk presentations tell stories in a way of having a conversation. In order to take lecture notes to a conversation, a presenter must absolutely practice, practice, and practice. And once they've done that, if they really want to master it, they're going to practice again. Any national conference TED Talk that you've viewed on YouTube or were inspired by, I can promise you the person giving that talk has given that talk at least 200 times before ever walking on the stage. Now, I'm not suggesting that our presenters do that 200 times, but I do know that by the time they go live, many have all but memorized their monologue, their script. Turns out, practice does make perfect. We want to leave you, the audience, with something new by introducing something new or offering a fresh and novel way to solve an old problem. The key here is the word new. Ocean explorer Robert Ballard once began a presentation by saying, "Everything I'm going to present to you was not in my textbooks when I went to school." And then he went on to teach his audience something new, not by telling them what they didn't know about oceans, but rather challenging them with the questions of why are we ignoring the oceans? We have found that following this advice helps us challenge the audience to see things anew and from a different perspective. A new perspective on age-old subjects can be the key to leaving the audience rethinking their approach to online teaching. The very idea of coming up with a jaw-dropping moment in a presentation can be intimidating. And it may be something that does not happen, but it's always something that we try to consider. The jaw-dropping moment in a presentation is when the presenter delivers a shocking, impressive, or surprising moment that's moving or memorable and grasps the audience's attention and is hopefully remembered long after the presentation is over. So how do we produce jaw-dropping moments in an ed talk here at Ashford? By moving from presenting to telling a personal story. Let me give you an example of a previous year's ed talk. I remember where Dr. Alan Belcher shared a personal story about his middle school teaching experience early in his career in rural West Virginia, where they opened the school early so that not only students, but family members of those students could come inside, take a warm shower, and get a hot meal. Let's not forget John Mendez' ed talk around Baby Judah and Uncle Paulie, or Frank Guvada's when he invited us to see the view from his table. All those personal stories that you heard this last year connected back to the topic that each of our presenters was sharing with you and having a conversation with you. Psychiatrist Rob Martin tells us that over the past century, a sense of humor has become a highly prized personality characteristic. I think most educators are familiar with the TED Talk of Sir Ken Robinson. In his TED Talk, he used a novel approach to discuss an old problem, how kids are taught. While he makes very good points about teaching, if you go back and watch his video, and I hope you do, you'll find he's very comfortable being humorous, and he does it often. He's not a professional comedian, and he doesn't try to be one. A humorous observation goes a long way in getting people's attention. The takeaway is that he doesn't take himself too seriously, and neither do we in our ed talks. We want to give the audience something to smile about. This works because humor lowers defenses, making your audience more receptive to your message. It also makes the presenter more likable in their talk, and people are more willing to listen when they like. I wish you all had a like button right now, or at least I think I do. Ed talks are timed. Ed talks are approved for the professional development series when they fall within the 18-minute rule. Why? The head of TED, Chris Anderson, said, keeping with the 18-minute rule reminds you to talk about what's important. The length of our ed talks is also a part of our branding. People know when they see the invite to an ed talk that it's only going to be a short presentation, and hopefully they're excited and make a point to attend because of the conversational, lighthearted storytelling approach that ed talks have become known for. During our ed talks, our goal is to paint a mental picture with multisensory experiences, which brings us to the PowerPoint aspect of our ed talks. But before I do that, I have a question for you. What images come into your mind's eye when you hear the I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King? Do you find that you get caught up in visualizing what Dr. King is saying and that you too are imagining a place where freedom does ring and where people are judged solely on their character? I ask you this because whatever image you're seeing is one that you created as a result of hearing the speech. There were no PowerPoints or Prezi or Apple Keynote tools available during Dr. King's speech. It's something that you imagined. Imagine that. One of the basic rules of TED Talk is use visuals to enhance words, not to duplicate them. In most of our Ed Talks, we have used minimal slides. The information on the slide was not standalone information. The value of the PowerPoint is that it complements what's being said. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane is one of our mantras in preparing Ed Talks. We tell every single presenter, stay in your lane. Unless you speak like Dr. King, don't try to speak like Dr. King. Unless you have the comedic skills of Jerry Seinfeld, don't try to be a comedian like Jerry Seinfeld. Stay in your lane in how you say things. Be yourself. If you, as a presenter, if you can break into song and make a point about your topic and pull it off, then by all means, break into your song during your Ed Talk. But if you cannot sing, please do not sing. Be yourself. Be authentic. Be open and be transparent. Public speaking is considered an art form, and all of our Ed Talkers are artists. We approach it as a production, a one-act play with a sole character. ED stands for education. We give education talks, Ed Talks. The graphics you see before you are screenshots from previous education talks. I'm hopeful these visuals bring back moments that perhaps inspired you during the talk and as a result have positively impacted your teaching. That's what we want education talks to do, to inspire you to inspire your students. And now you know what happens behind the scenes in the making of Ed Talks. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Our Ed Talks have evolved over the years, but we do keep that formula described in Jackie's story consistent to allow for this unique style of session opportunity in our professional development and reflection. One of the challenges that we've had to overcome was determining when and how often to present our talks. We currently host a monthly session for faculty with 2 live time slots. We usually use the months of July and December for planning and seasonal reset of our Ed Talks. And our annual November session partners with the TLC and is open to everyone. In fact, please do mark your TLC schedule for this afternoon's session at 12:30 Pacific time. Our Ed Talk season finale is What's My Impact? Developing Successful Habits, a student perspective. And for the very first time, students will be telling their stories of the impact of their journey and faculty strategies have had for them. Our Ed Talks caught on as we grew our audience from a concentrated group of full-time faculty in the College of Education to the entire Ashford faculty and student support community. Our impact is measured in our feedback and attendance numbers. Our recorded sessions this year alone have had 1,259 views over 9 sessions, in addition to our live attendance of 1,233 attendees over those same 9 sessions. Those numbers are quite encouraging. In addition, our attendees have provided feedback to us by survey that indicates we are demonstrating support for our why. It includes engaging faculty in a way to inspire innovation and a shared vision and culture of universal achievement in the classroom. Some of the feedback we've received related to our Ed Talk series includes that strategies and information provided are informative, useful, relevant, and thought-provoking, that those Ed Talks provide connections between Ashford faculty members and foster engaging conversations between the attendees. And we've also been told that sessions provide reflection and challenge to try something new with those practical examples. Our attendees, as Jackie mentioned, also indicate that they choose Ed Talks because they are brief in length and that recorded sessions provide flexibility in attending. So what are our next steps? Well, we are currently determining what our series in 2020 will tell, what the story will be, so stay tuned. Any faculty interested in viewing our recorded Ed Talk sessions can reach out to Jackie or I, And if you have an ed story to tell, we definitely want to hear it. Now, we would love to hear from you. What questions did this prompt? What did it spark? We're not here to teach you something, but inspire reflection and practice in engaging together as faculty, students, and community. Feel free to come on the line and share. So how many slides would we recommend? That's a great question, Terry. Usually the story drives the presentation, and we try to use slides that, as Jackie mentioned in his story, aren't really descriptive of what's being said, but it allows anyone who's looking a chance to have something to see while they are processing. So usually it'll be for an 18-minute presentation of story. It's about maybe 5 different images that are presented, but it's up to the storyteller how they want to do that. Our coaches are there to support, but the story really comes from the person telling it. Holly is right. Jackie is a pro coach. He has been at this for quite some time, and he will pull out ideas that you didn't even know you were thinking about as you're trying to develop a story, and find a way to align it to content, relevant information, and still tell it in the story fashion. So he's absolutely amazing.
It's a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of work to do. It's certainly more than a presentation, because you do end up drilling down and finding what it is that you as the speaker you're passionate about, and then framing that up as a story. To Holly's point, I do encourage everyone to create one.
So I have a question for the presenters. You had, Jesse, you had noted that you were going to be having student presenters at your final Ed Talk of the Year, and wondering if you think that might be an angle that you would be pursuing for future Ed Talks, maybe for 2020, or finding other ways to include students in that experience.
Kate, that is a great question, and it has actually been something that our Ed Talk community and committee has talked about over the time of who our audience is. Right now, most Ed Talks, other than those that are at TLC, the audience is geared towards faculty, associate faculty, student-facing support staff, and those that are stakeholders in the university. However, because of the concept, it's applicable to any audience and any topic, really. I mean, just look at TED Talks. It's the format that holds true. And we have discussed looking at creative ways to have either multiple series or ways to alternate the audience and the way who we bring in to tell their stories. So the answer to that is there's always time to think about collaborating in other ways. Any other questions? What did this inspire for you? Or did it give you some insight on what they do in TED Talks? Because I know when I started doing this, that was the biggest aha for me. You can make it look like you don't know what you're going to say and just tell a story, but really the preparation that goes into this, it's very, very pointed. It's not just telling a story like you have no purpose. It's a story with a purpose, because it aligns to inspiration for what we do to support students. And as some of our attendees have mentioned in their feedback, it also brings in inspiration for personal family life, ways that you might take a different approach or mindset.
And in looking at it, the motivator was enjoying TED presentations. And I never walked away from watching a TED presentation that I knew how to do something better. But I would leave those presentations maybe with a desire to want to just do better in whatever the topic was. And so with that in mind, we thought it might be a good avenue to explore in what we do in education, to say, okay, let's do the same thing, because as educators, we know where we can do better. And I don't want to come and say, hey, this thing here, you should be doing better. I just want to share a story with you that might resonate for you to internally go back and say, you know what? I think I could do better in this area or this area, or even if it's an affirmation that you got it and that you're doing well. That's what we want.
So there you go, Jackie, next year, a how-to.
I guess we could do that, Terry. Happy to do that.
Well, Paul, it looks like our inspiration is winding down. So to let everybody have a chance to get to their next session.
Well, we're all back to back today. This is day 3. Get to everything you can. And I appreciate y'all being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So we want to thank Jesse and Jackie for their presentation. And, it just makes us think about what exciting opportunities there are to share a story in 2020, and really appreciate the opportunity to hear what you've done, and look forward to seeing amazing stuff in 2020. So again, thank you, Jackie and Jesse, for your presentation, and thank you, participants, for joining us. There are many other TLC sessions for the rest of this day, day 3, so please come and join us. And again, thank you, and we'll look forward to the rest of the day. Bye-bye.